Hey, it's Clay at claycharter.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Monday, October 14th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown, so if you're someone that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to help make good decisions as a trader, this will be a video for you. And also, if you trade Bitcoin, I will do a bonus analysis at the end. First off, a couple clarifications. Number one, the candlestick that you see right there will be moving around and changing. That is because the market's still open for a small amount of time. But I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day price movement. Second, I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks here represents 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one, ticker symbol TWG. Very nice move around this one today. So let's get some things mapped out here. And you can see very strong afternoon. That nice little 30-minute session right there. And then as I speak right now, still hovering right here around these highs. So all things considered, very, very solid day. In terms of areas of support, I think the very basic level to go about this and the level that probably most people have drawn is that trend line right there. And I say most people have drawn because when a lot of people are watching the same levels and wondering the same thing, call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, call it whatever you want, it can produce some very dynamic movement. So while that doesn't guarantee anything, my point is, would it be shocking if the price came down here and then bounced off that level like it's done before? No, I don't think I would consider that shocking at all. Again, doesn't mean it's for sure going to happen, but it's certainly a more than valid thought. So keep an eye on that from a support standpoint. And then in terms of areas of resistance, main battleground to watch, nothing fancy here. Literally just a question of where did the party stop today for the bulls? And that was right up there at 855. Not once, but twice the price got up there, couldn't quite push through it. So yes, moving forward into next week, 855, public enemy number one. But all things considered, monster volume, great price movement. So let's see if this momentum builds over the weekend and carries into Monday. Next one, DJT. This thing has been an absolute monster over the past several days and has just really entered into a good solid uptrend. Did this one a while ago when I was talking about that resistance line right there and the price broke above it. And the rest is history from that point. So for anybody that remembered that video and took that trade from the trend line break, if you're still holding, then yeah, you're doing very, very well. But let's get things updated in its current situation. So first, let's get this level of resistance mapped out right there. And then let me get the bottom part of the support mapped out. And we're having a classic pattern here that's taking shape. Let me change that to green to represent support. And then just because I can't help myself, let's keep this all one color so to make sure everybody sees the pattern. So we have our resistance, we have our support, we have the big upwards move right there. And you for your golfers out there, try to make it a little bit more visually appealing. Put the golf hole down here. This would be a bull pennant pattern. So as I just mentioned, while there are no guarantees, is it valid? Is it plausible that if the price comes up here and pushes through that level, that break in of itself could create additional buying pressure? That is certainly a more than plausible set of circumstances. So if you like bull pennants, you like this price range, keep an eye on it. Next one, JTAI, again, JTAI, and talked about this one yesterday. And I was namely talking about this area down around here, but the price really never came back down and visited. It just gapped up this morning and then had a very strong opening 30 minutes. The price did drop back downwards. So it's essentially a case of deja vu here a little bit in the sense of if the price comes down here, is it guaranteed? No, but looking back here because my ugly mug's in front of the way, but you can see this green line before right here. Provided support, got a bounce. So now let's look at it more near term right there. Provided support, got a big bounce. So as I've said, and will probably say more times, no guarantees, but certainly plausible that if the price comes down here, you could very well get another bounce off that area. But that's why risk management matters, because if the price continues to collapse, then you don't want to turn yourself into a bag holder. But really the entire premise from yesterday's video holds strong once again. Now the biggest difference is the price actually got to drop down quite a bit of ways, whereas yesterday the price was essentially right at that level. But if the price does come down here, really just a question of can it be a double bottom? We got one bounce there. Will this be a second bottom where you get another bounce? We'll see what happens. Next one here, PLTR. And for those of you that watched the video from yesterday, this is what I suspected would happen. I called for a pullback, and a pullback didn't need to happen due to that rising wedge pattern. But also, as I talked about in yesterday's video, I said, pullback is not bad. It's not like it's a collapse. And sure enough, it pulled back, and it still did a fantastic job of honoring that purple line there, the 50 period moving average. In fact, didn't even test it. It got somewhat close right there, but never even tested it. So all things considered, there is the pullback. That's what the pattern was suggesting needed to happen. And now it's a question of, okay, let's see if the trend can now resume itself after it's gotten that pullback, taken a bit of a breath. Can this breath prove to be healthy and continue on up? And in that sense, the key battleground now to watch, moving forward, going to be right here around the $44 mark. So keep an eye on 44 if this bounce upwards continues. From a support standpoint, kind of already talked about that. But moving forward, as long as the price stays above that purple line, the bulls are in full health, full control, however you want to best visualize that. Now, even if the price falls below that level, that doesn't mean the entire chart's epically destroyed. But the price staying above that purple line does certainly illustrate, the best case scenario moving forward. But all in all, pullback today. It's been a healthy pullback. Let's see if this can curl back upwards and put in some new highs next week. Next one here, Nvidia, and talked about this pattern yesterday, and I want to actually extend this out because I would say that the pattern is still in play here. So let me move this over too. And you can see that this morning and actually all day today, and this will mean more to those of you that watched yesterday's video, but I did talk about that area of resistance right there, and you can see a couple of false breakouts, but then after that, you can see the price just really struggled right at that level. So this rising wedge is still in play. So I am still calling for a pullback here in Nvidia, and as I've said, pullbacks are not the same as a crash. Nvidia could come all the way down here, and it would still, if that was the low, would still be putting in much higher lows than the previous pullbacks. So a pullback is not a bad thing, but with the pattern here that has continued to form, it's just giving more and more credence to the idea that, yeah, probably a pullback will need to occur before an overall uptrend can continue. So I would be expecting a pullback here in Nvidia early next week, but we'll see what happens. But that's what this rising wedge here is suggesting. Real quick, want to take a break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online webinar that I'm offering next week. So if you've been enjoying what you've seen and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency and manage risk, then definitely get signed up for the free live class. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box you can use to sign up. Or if you're watching right at my website, there's an area on the webpage you can use to sign up. So like I said, if you've been enjoying, then definitely get signed up for the free class. Next one here, TSLA Tesla, and absolute train wreck on this one today. With the news and all that about people apparently not being impressed. Definitely a big move down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of those lines as they serve their purpose for now. And just to offer up some, context here, been a very, very, very long time since the price has been down around this area of the chart. In fact, the last time it was down around here was back in mid-September with a low of right around the 210.35 mark. So I'm going to change that to green, and we'll zoom back in here, but I just want you to keep in mind where that line is coming from. You can see that a couple of instances, both here and here, is where the price was last down around that area. And to give credit's due, in both those instances, it did hold strong. But zooming in here, you can see that the price still does have a bit of a ways to go, but it's also not totally unrealistic to think that the price could be headed down towards this 210, we'll call it 35-ish area next week. And that's where the big question mark resides. Is that level going to hold as support like it did previously, or is that just going to open up another floodgates of downwards pressure? So that all remains to be seen, of course, assuming that price even comes back down. Now, in terms of areas of resistance, in the very near term, key level to watch right now that's been established is basically this pretty brutal downtrend trend line right now, which you can see has done a good job of just kind of forecasting the slow, steady downwards pressure. If the price can push up through there, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but that would at least symbolize that, this current downwards pressure has been alleviated and maybe a bigger bounce could occur. But as of now, in my opinion, most important dynamic moving forward is whether or not the price goes down to that 210.35 mark and if the price can hold strong or not. Next one, ZENA. Interesting day today. Gapped up. Very, very impressive to be all the way up there. But then after that, the price had this bigger pullback right here. So now it's just a question of, can the price try to recover? And as of now, it's still got a chance to turn itself around, but that is where I would consider this area right here at $2.15 to be very, very important. And I'm not saying this will occur, but the reason why I would call it important is if the price were to come down here and then break down through that level, what would that be doing to the price? That would quite literally be putting the price right back in this area where it just was. I mean, not to insult your intelligence, but price movements with genuine strength don't make huge moves up and then go right back to where they were. Whereas if the price can at least come down here and do something like that and curl back upwards, what would you have in this situation? Well, from the big picture, you'd have a set of lows right there. You'd have those lows right there. And if you envision each of those as stair-steps, you'd still have stair-steps progressing in the upwards direction. And that's the name of the game. That's what a truly strong move is going to do. It's going to make progress. And in this situation, quote-unquote, progress is being defined as that level right there. In terms of levels of resistance, main battleground to watch, if this does try to curl back upwards, right there around $2.60. So very eventful day. Is there genuine power behind this movement? Let's see if the price can start to show signs of progress next week. Next one here, NIVF. Good looking penny stock here with a nice quality pattern. So let's just get this pattern drawn into play. I've already talked about it once, so this should sound familiar to you. But there we have the resistance part of the pattern. Here we have the support part. Let me change that to green. And as I mentioned earlier, let's just make sure we can all see it. So let's keep it one color. So we have our resistance. We have our support. We have the huge explosive move right there. We have our golf hole down here. So we have another bull pennant pattern. So I'm not going to waste your time. You've already heard me talk about the bull pennant pattern. All I'll say is if you like bull pennants, you like penny stocks, here you go. Next one here, MSTR has really been on a very, very impressive move. So let's get the current pattern drawn into play here, or at least the pattern that I'm seeing. So there is the resistance portion of the pattern. And then at the same time, we have the support part right there. Change that to green. And this is another rising wedge pattern, which is suggesting that a pullback will need, is more likely than not. But just to reiterate, pullback does not mean crash. So before you get all upset, I'm not saying this thing is crashing back to oblivion. I'm just saying that this right here, and in many ways, I'm stating the obvious, from where it was right here to where it is all the way up here, that's been a very, very, very impressive move. So to call, yeah, maybe this thing needs to take a breath, take a little bit of a pullback, that's not exactly the boldest of claims on my part. So overall, though, rising wedge. Early next week, I would expect some sort of pullback here. We'll see what happens with it. And just to give a little bit more context, you can see that overall, this thing is plenty much so in an upwards trend. So any sort of pullback here, as long as it's building those higher lows, then, from a bigger picture standpoint, everything would remain perfectly fine. Next, TQQQ, and once again, not a whole lot happened from an overall standpoint. Now, yes, I realize that intraday today, there was this gap down, a big move up, and then from there, it kind of just turned into a chop fest. But all things considered from the bigger picture standpoint, it's still in just this sideways channel, but the channel has once again, I would argue, has expanded itself a little bit, but it's neutral because I am going to adjust this area of support in the downwards direction, which is not good when levels of support need to be adjusted downwards. But on the flip side of things, I'm also going to need to adjust this area of resistance in the upwards direction, and that is a good thing from a bullish standpoint when levels of resistance need to be adjusted higher. So really, it's just kind of trying to figure out where is the ultimate channel. And as of right now, after today's data, looks as though this is the most accurate channel. We can try to gauge things. Now, don't get hung up in, well, I think the channel is, 15 cents cheaper. That's fine, because at the end of the day, the pattern is just conveying psychology. And the psychology right now is just a whole lot of sideways action, a whole lot of who is ultimately going to win this battle. So, like I said, no need to get into a fist fight over, well, I think the top of the channel is that price. That's irrelevant. Just understand the psychology that the price continues to drift sideways. So it's good in the sense of there's been no collapses. It's bad in the sense of, well, is this the top? Why is it struggling to put a new high? So like I said, that counterbalances out. But all in all, this sideways channel is still occurring in an overall upwards environment. So you do have to give the ultimate advantage to the bulls. So we'll see what happens next week. I'll get to Bitcoin here in just a second, but for you stock traders out there, again, if you like what you saw here and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency and manage risk, then definitely get signed up for the free class. Like I said, it'll be next week, Thursday, October 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and it is truly live, and I say that because there is a Q&A session, so if you have questions, please bring them. I'd be happy to answer them live for you. All right, now let's talk some Bitcoin. Real quick, for clarification, I am now on the 4-hour time frame looking at Bitcoin. So instead of each of these representing 30 minutes, each one represents 4 hours. And I like to do this time frame because I think it does a good job of, because Bitcoin is open 24/7, this just does a good job of keeping this analysis relevant for as long as possible because it is those longer time frames. And my goal here is just to assume you're watching this video sometime, let's just call it Sunday afternoon, and to walk you through some questions to ask yourself. So as of right now, as I speak, what a bounce. And this just, I'll turn this to a quick plug. That line has been there. If you don't believe me, I'm not offended. Just go back, watch a previous episode, and you'll see, or a previous video, and you'll see that line was down there. But the power of charts. Charts are great. And so, like I said, turn it into a quick plug. Go get signed up for that free training. But the price has bounced extremely nicely off that area. So question number one, going into next week. So let's just say you're watching this Sunday afternoon, like I mentioned earlier. Where is the price at relative to 62,275? As long as you're answering the question that the price is above there, then everything is still perfectly fine. Because even if the price has drifted down, so maybe you're watching this and the price has come down, what you would still have, though, from an overarching standpoint is, well, you'd have a pullback, but you'd also have this big upwards move. You'd have a bull flag pattern. So that's why I say anything above 61,275, the chart is doing just fine. Now, there is some common sense. If you're saying, well, actually, Clay, I'm watching it and the price is way up here. Well, that would just be telling you that this bounce has built that much more strength. There's been no pullback, and that, you know, the price is looking that much stronger. My point here is that as long as the price is above that level right there, then overall things, nothing to panic about, nothing to worry about. Now, if you are saying, well, actually, Clay, the price is down below that level, okay, that's disappointing. Am I going to say things are ruined? I'm not going to say that. What would cause this weekend to be an absolute train wreck is if the price somehow drops back down below 58,900. Now, I doubt that's going to happen over the weekend, but like I said, anything above, so anything in this zone of the chart, things are doing great. Anything right here, disappointing. Anything down below here, something went severely wrong over the weekend. So that's kind of the sectors to keep an eye on moving forward. But as I speak right now, very, very impressive upwards movement. And as I invited the stock traders, I'm inviting you as a crypto and Bitcoin trader to get signed up for this class, because what you learn about can and certainly should be used within the world of crypto and Bitcoin. So go get signed up. It'll be next week, Thursday, October 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So I hope to see you there. As always, if you enjoy these top 10 videos, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. I do read and reply to all those, so I'd be happy to hear from you. So go get signed up for that free class. Have a great weekend.